Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Friday Film Show. As always, I'm your host David O'Sullivan, and this is my weekly movie talk show in which every week I come to you and look back over the past week of movie news and give you my thoughts and opinions on all the movie news topics, new movie trailers and new releases that I find most interesting and I want to talk about. With that being said, let's just get straight into this, and first up we've got films that I've watched this week. And if you have watched last week's episode, you'll know that the films that were opening this week were, here in the UK anyway at least, were The Accountant, Doctor Strange and Jack Reacher Never Go Back. Fortunately, I wasn't able to check out Jack Reacher Never Go Back. I didn't get the chance to see that. I still want to get around to seeing it at some point, but I just haven't had the chance to see it. I've had a very busy week. I did get the chance to see Doctor Strange and The Accountant. I've already done a 15-minute review of Doctor Strange, so if you want to know my full in-depth thoughts and opinions on that film, be sure to check out my Doctor Strange review. However, there were two films that I forgot to mention at the end of last week's episode that I did see this week also, and those were I, Daniel Blake and Queen of Katwe, so I may as well start with those two films. And first up is Queen of Katwe, and I've been looking forward to this film. I heard some really good things about it and I was expecting it to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be as great as it was. Like, this film really floored me. I thought it was a great film, but more than that, it really affected me on a deeper kind of emotional level, which I really wasn't expecting. I thought it was going to be a kind of light, fluffy kind of Disney film, but it was actually really quite poignant and heartfelt and emotional and quite deep, and it really affected me. And for me, it's just one of the best films of the year so far. And then also we got I, Daniel Blake, which is the new film from acclaimed British filmmaker Ken Loach. I heard some really good things about this. It was getting really good reviews. Everyone was had a really good positive buzz about it, and it was a great film. I didn't personally love it, even though I did think it was a great film. You know, there was no denying it was an absolutely amazing film. I'll give it 5 stars. But for me, even though I like it when films are realistic, and this film was really realistic, it was basically a true story. It was what real life is for most people living in the UK, and it was really kind of quite powerful. It really quite hard-hitting, and it was just a brutal, harsh, unforgiving story of what real life is, and you know, what life is like for most people. I thought it was really well done, but for me there were times when it got too realistic to a point where it just became depressing for me, and I just got angry. And it was good, it was done well, that it provoked such a strong reaction from me, but I got not as much emotional and upset, but more just depressed and angry and annoyed that this is what it's like, and this is how kind of just mucked up and ridiculous and idiotic the whole system is. And yeah, I thought it was a great film. I definitely recommend people to see it. For me, I don't think it's one of the best films of the year, but it's definitely the most important and one of the most powerful films of the year so far. So this is a film that deserves to be talked about. It deserves all the praise and recognition it's getting, and I would definitely recommend going to see it. So yeah, that's Queen of Katwe and I, Daniel Blake. And next up we have The Accountant. Like I said, I've already done a review of Doctor Strange, so I'm not going to talk about that here, but The Accountant, obviously the new film starring Ben Affleck, the kind of crime, action, drama type film, and I actually really enjoyed The Accountant. I didn't think it was an amazing film. I had some problems with it. There was a lot of kind of conflicting storylines. I was most interested with the central storyline involving Ben Affleck. That was the most interesting and engaging for me. Whenever it cut back to the other storylines involving, you know, J.K. Simmons and the other detective, and there was a lot of other kind of storylines and plot threads going on throughout the film, and for me they weren't as interesting or as engaging. I didn't dislike them. I don't think they were like taken from another film or anything. They didn't feel completely out of place. It's just that I didn't find them as, you know, as immersive and engaging as the Ben Affleck storyline. I think the film should have focused more on that, because there is a storyline involving John Bernthal and that subplot, and that needed to be in the film because he came into contact with Ben Affleck at the end of the film. But the J.K. Simmons storyline involving him and the other agent didn't really need to be in the film, because it wasn't out of place. It was still connected, but you know, it never became intertwined with the Ben Affleck storyline. So it's like, did that really need to be in the film? However, that being said, even though there are some things that bug me, I really enjoyed The Accountant. I had a really good time, and it was surprisingly funnier than I was expecting. There was actually quite a bit of humour in there, and it was humour that worked, that came about through, Ben Affleck interacting with other people, or how he reacted to certain situations, how different people reacted to different situations that went down, and it really worked for me. It was surprisingly quite funny and entertaining and enjoyable, and obviously it kicked ass in the action sequences. It was kind of like, Bourne meets John Wick in a way. It was really good fun, actually, so I had a surprisingly good time with The Accountant. As I said earlier, I didn't get the chance to see Jack Reacher, so I'm not really talking about that. And Doctor Strange, again, another film that I really liked. Not one of Marvel's best, but still a really good fun time that I would recommend seeing. And if you want to know more of what I thought about Doctor Strange, then be sure to check out my review, like I said. And now going into movie news topics, and first up I've got a couple of pieces of Star Wars movie news. The first being that Donald Glover was officially cast and announced as being the young Lando Calrissian in the new Han Solo standalone Star Wars spin-off, and I really like this news. He wasn't my number one pick for a young Lando Calrissian, but the more I think about this casting, the more I like it. Donald Glover is not only a great actor, but he's really good at both drama and comedy, as we saw from The Martian. That was more of a drama film, but had a lot of comedy in it as well, and a lot of that came from Donald Glover, and I think he can do both drama and comedy really well. So for something like Lando Calrissian in a Han Solo Star Wars spin-off, I think he is the perfect fit for that. And yeah, I think him and Alden Ehrenreich, I think it is, who's playing young Han Solo, I think I don't know anything for sure, but I have a feeling they're going to have great chemistry together, and they're going to get on well, and I can see them sparking off each other really well and being great together as the young Han Solo and young Lando Calrissian. So I think that's a really good casting choice there, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in the role. And of course, the fact that Lando is going to be in the young Han Solo movie, that tells us that not only is the Millennium Falcon obviously going to be in it, but we may see the Kessel Run, and I think that we probably will see that, Millennium Falcon making the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs, because there's a chance they might not do it, but I have a feeling they're going to, because otherwise people are going to be like, well, how could you not do that? So I think they are going to do it, and we're going to see what exactly happened, whether it was Han Solo that made the Kessel Run, whether it was Lando Calrissian, and also how Han Solo got the Millennium Falcon from Lando, because we know that it was Lando's originally, and then Han Solo, I don't know, either won it from him, so he's either going to win it in some kind of bet, some kind of gambling type thing, or if he's going to steal it from him in a kind of smuggler type fashion, or if he's just going to win it from him fair and square. We don't know. I have a feeling maybe he kind of stole it in a kind of smuggler type fashion, as there was some kind of bad blood between them at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back. They had a kind of falling out, it seems. However, it will be interesting if, Han Solo won it from him. If, for example, the Kessel Run, Lando's like, I bet you can't make the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs, and then Han Solo makes it, and then he wins the Millennium Falcon. Or maybe Lando made the Kessel Run, because Han Solo never actually said that it was him that made the Kessel Run, but, who knows, this is just all speculation on my part. But yeah, the next piece of Star Wars movie news is that Daisy Ridley says that her parentage will be revealed in episode 8. For me, this makes sense. I don't think there's any point in holding off till episode 9. I mean, there's a chance they might not reveal it until the very end of episode 8, or maybe the beginning of episode 9, but for me it makes sense that they will reveal it at the end of episode 8, or at any time for episode 8. I've gone back and forth on whether I think Rey is Luke's daughter, whether Luke is the father of Rey. When I first saw Star Wars The Force Awakens, I immediately thought, yeah, definitely, there's no way in hell she's not Luke's daughter. But the more I see it and the more I think about it, for me, I don't think Luke is her father, because there's that line between Rey and Maz Kanata where she's like, your parents have gone, but there's still someone else, Luke. So as in, Luke's not her parents. Like, she had her parents, they have gone now, they're out of the picture, but there's still someone else, that being Luke. So I have a feeling that her parents, that Luke isn't her father. He may be, it would make sense if she was a Skywalker, but I have a feeling that Luke isn't her father, and her parents were either killed or something happened to them, and then Luke took her on and she was like his apprentice. But yeah, we don't know. All will be revealed in episode 8, hopefully. And getting into comic book movie news now, and the Logan timeline was revealed by director James Mangold, and if I just look at what exactly was said here in the article. Okay. We are in the future. We have passed the point of the epilogue of Days of Future Past. We're finding all these characters and circumstances that are a little more real. The questions of aging, of loneliness, of where I belong. Am I still useful to the world? I saw it as an opportunity. We've seen these characters in action, saving the universe, but what happens when you're in retirement and that career is over? And for me, I really like these comments because from the look of the Logan trailer, it looks like it's going to be a lot more real, a lot more grounded, down to earth, a more human take on these characters. They're older now. They're a little more withered and hardened, and they're a little broken, and I like this. And the fact that the timeline, it's set after Days of Future Past, that just makes sense. It's a little iffy that it's only set 1 year after the end of Days of Future Past. Days of Future Past was 2023, and this is 2024. It's not that big of a problem. I think it probably would have made sense if it was like 2026 or 2028 or 2029, a little more of a gap there, because obviously they've aged quite a lot in just a year, but at least it's still set after Days of Future Past, because obviously it needs to be still in a dystopian kind of futuristic setting, because obviously they're older now and it's post-apocalyptic, it looks like. So yeah, I really like this comments, and I'm really looking forward to Logan. Next up, we have Deadpool 2 loses director Tim Miller, and this is quite a big piece of movie news that dropped the past week. A lot of new details that have dropped over the past week on the creative differences between Tim Miller and Ryan Reynolds that led to the falling out between the two of them, and this really is quite unfortunate to me, because it's not as if they can't do a Deadpool movie without Tim Miller. I'm sure they'll be able to get someone else great in there to replace him, but Tim Miller was such a big part of that first movie and the success of that first movie, and for me it seems odd that it was such a big success, and then what happened, that they had such a big falling out. And obviously there's creative differences. Ryan Reynolds, I think, had a particular vision for the sequel, and Tim Miller had a particular vision for the sequel, and they didn't quite mix. They had two different conflicting visions. So it happens. It happened with Edgar Wright and Ant-Man. He had conflicting creative differences with Marvel. They parted ways, but Ant-Man still turned out great. For me, it's a bit unfortunate that Tim Miller is not going to be doing this sequel. Hopefully they'll be able to get a really good replacement for him, like maybe Edgar Wright or maybe Matthew Vaughn. He would be my pick. I think he was my pick for an X-Force movie, but now that Deadpool 2's open for a new director, I really think they should get Matthew Vaughn in there. For me, that makes the most sense. But yeah, it's a little unfortunate this happened. Apparently it was due to not just creative differences over the vision of the film, but that Tim Miller wanted Kyle Chandler to be Cable. I'm not overly familiar with Kyle Chandler and his work, but I don't know if he was the right fit for Cable. Again, we don't really know, because we don't really know what was going on behind the scenes, or what the script was, or what they're really going for with this sequel, and what these two different visions were. But for me, it makes sense that the studio was to go with Ryan Reynolds, because he's the guy behind all this. It's his baby. Deadpool is Ryan Reynolds, so I think they can get on all right without Tim Miller. Even though it would have been great to see them back, to see the band back together for a sequel, I think they'll be able to carry on without him. But again, it was a little disappointing. Now to our next piece of comic book movie news, and we have that Kevin Feige is reluctant to bring the Netflix heroes into the MCU. Basically, he says that I think it's extremely impressive what Netflix has done, and it will be the same answer I always give, which is it all depends on timing. It all depends on how to do it, because I don't think what anybody wants to do is have such important characters show up for 1 second. Black Panther and Spider-Man to me are the high bar in Civil War of how you can bring new characters into something. Again, I see what he's saying here, but I really think that the Netflix heroes should show up in Avengers Infinity War. I think they probably will. Now, I don't know for sure. There's a chance, there's a very high chance that they won't. But even if it's just a small role, I don't think it'll just be a cameo, because like Kevin Feige said, for them to show up just for 2 seconds, that's not going to really mean anything. It's just going to be a disservice to the characters. Like, why would they bother showing up if they're just going to be in it for just 2-second cameos? But I think there is a way they could integrate them into the storyline of Infinity War, even if they're just like this ground patrol working on the ground, cleaning up after this kind of big cosmic battle. They're helping civilians on the ground while the Avengers are up fighting the big cosmic battle up in space. I think that for me makes the most sense. I don't think that's going to happen. There's a chance that they potentially won't appear in Infinity War. They probably won't, going by what Kevin Feige said, but it's a very diplomatic answer. There's a strong chance that they will show up as well, and he's kind of just, he doesn't want to confirm anything, but who knows. They may show up in Infinity War, they may not. For me, I think they should, but like I said, I think I want them to play a role in the film, not a big role, but more than just a cameo. But who knows, let's see what happens there. Next up we have Aquaman's James Wan talks Indiana Jones' influence with Aquaman and also Aquaman's relationship with Mera. James Wan has said it starts off initially with them not quite clicking with each other, but then as the story progresses, as they learn to try and work together, they get closer and closer. I think these stories are always such a great place for a filmmaker like myself to have fun with the actors. I think that dynamic will be really interesting between the two. And obviously he described Aquaman as a quest story potentially in the spirit of Raiders of the Lost Ark meets Romancing the Stone. It's a kind of adventure quest movie. And for me, I really like these comments. I really like that Aquaman's going to be more of a fun, swashbuckling, kind of fantasy action adventure movie. I think that has the right tone and fit for an Aquaman movie, and I really like these comments from James Wan, and I really think that he's got a good, clear, strong vision for what he wants for this film, and I think that it will turn out well. And I also really like his comments about the relationship between Aquaman and Mera, because I like the fact that, you know, Mera is going to be just as strong a character as Aquaman, and also it makes sense that they're going to have a bit of a conflicting relationship at first, because, you know, I'm glad they're not going to just go for they're all buddies to begin with, and, you know, just dynamic duo. I like the fact that there's going to be a bit of a conflicting relationship between the two of them, because they're both powerful, regal figures. So it makes sense that they don't really get along at first. They're butting heads at first, but then over the course of the film they become friends and team up. So for me that makes sense, and I think that will really work well for an Aquaman movie. Next up is apparently Joss Whedon wants to make a Star Wars movie. So if I just take a look at this here again, apparently Joss Whedon wants to make a Star Wars movie and weighs in on Marvel versus DC debate. And he said, I did not see Suicide Squad, I saw Batman vs Superman, everybody's got their own method. I think Marvel has been more successful systematically, DC has been more cinematic, their stuff looks amazing, but I feel like Kevin Feige is a really good storyteller. He really cares about coherence, and I feel like style never defeats substance at Marvel. But a little style creeps in. Ant-Man had some, Doctor Strange might be funky, and they're doing very fun things on TV. The Marvel Netflix thing is working really well. DC's decision to have their shows on TV with different actors playing the same characters at the same time as their movies is a little interesting. So yeah, that's obviously Joss Whedon's going to be more biased towards Marvel and DC, but obviously you can see where he's coming from. Marvel are currently doing that a lot better than DC. They've got a really kind of strong hold on their characters and their movies, and they really know what they're doing. DC is a little bit kind of up in the air at the moment. And he also said, so do I want to make a James Bond movie? Yeah. And how on earth does Catwoman again? Sure. Do I want to make a Star Wars movie? Yeah. So, you know, there's nothing like concrete here that he's going to be definitely doing a Star Wars movie or a DC movie or anything, but obviously by these comments you can tell that he's up for anything. You know, he's a big fan of these kind of properties like Star Wars, like Marvel, like DC, so he's up for doing anything. You know, if he gets the call, he'll definitely consider it. And I really like these comments because I'm a really big fan of Joss Whedon, and for me, I'll see whatever he does. I would like to see him do more original stuff, which I think is what he's doing, but by his comments you can tell that he's definitely going to be open to doing potentially another Marvel movie or another DC movie or a Star Wars movie, so that would be really cool to see. And now getting on to just other movie news in general. First up, we've got Michael Dougherty to helm Godzilla 2, and I'm not that familiar with him as a director, and I thought the first Godzilla movie was perfectly fine. I mean, I did like it more the first time, I think, than I did on multiple watches. I haven't really seen it that many times over the years since it came out. I liked the kind of tone and vibe they went with, what Gareth Edwards did with that first movie. It was a little more kind of mysterious and, you know, ambiguous and dramatic. It was less just big, dumb action movie, but at the same time, you know, they probably held off on Godzilla a bit too much, you know. I'm interested to see which direction they go, what kind of direction they go with a sequel. Again, I'm not really familiar with this director and his work, but who knows, you know, I'm up for a Godzilla 2 and just let's hope it turns out good. And then next up we have Peter Jackson to adapt YA novel Mortal Engines. Again, I'm not that familiar with this, well, in this case I'm familiar with the filmmaker obviously, but not familiar with the property. But obviously I'm a big fan of Peter Jackson. The Lord of the Rings films are some of my favourite films of all time, and him doing another big sci-fi fantasy kind of film, which I think this is supposed to be, then sure, I'm up for that. I hope it's not too much of a teen type movie, because Peter Jackson's doing it. That's giving me faith it's going to be more of a kind of, you know, more serious grown up, less of a kiddie kind of thing. But I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I think this is the first film Peter Jackson had done since The Hobbit, but yeah, he's not really done a whole lot other than Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Obviously he did the King Kong remake, which was, you know, you get past the first hour, it's pretty good fun. You know, it just takes like an hour to get to the Skull Island, and it's like, you know, 3 hours long. So, you know, but I like Peter Jackson as a filmmaker, and I'll see whatever he does. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Next up, we have Margot Robbie joins the Peter Rabbit movie. I don't know that much about this Peter Rabbit film, but I'm a big fan of Beatrix Potter and the Peter Rabbit stories. I grew up with a lot of them as a kid. I've been to the whole Beatrix Potter Peter Rabbit place in the Lake District. We go there quite often, and I'm a big fan. I don't know how this movie is going to turn out. It's got some quite good talent involved. Margot Robbie, James Corden, I believe. So, yeah, hopefully it will turn out good. I don't really know that much about it, but let's hope it's good. I think it's live action, or a mixture of live action and CGI, so I'm not sure whether the Margot Robbie is going to be a live action character or a rabbit. She'll probably be voicing a rabbit, but, you know, who knows how that's going to turn out. And next up we have Shawn Levy is to direct Uncharted movie at Sony. Again, I'm not that familiar with Uncharted. I know it's a very popular video game. I'm vaguely familiar with it. I'm not really that into video games, to be honest with you, but yeah, Shawn Levy directed Real Steel. I wasn't that crazy about Real Steel. I thought it was alright. However, I think he is a good filmmaker that's got potential to do something really great. So hopefully this will be his first big breakout movie, and I think he is a good fit. And again, I can't really say until I've seen the movie or at least seen a trailer, but I think it is a good choice. I think he's got potential, and I think he'll be able to do a good job with this movie. And next up, Shaun the Sheep 2 is in development. I am aware of Shaun the Sheep. This is a TV show here in the UK that's been going for years. It's very popular, won a lot of awards. I didn't actually get around to seeing the Shaun the Sheep movie. I heard it's been really good. It got nominated for a few awards, I think. And obviously stop motion animation or claymation is incredible, and Aardman are just the best. And yeah, apparently it was just a really great, like, terrific silent comedy kind of film, because obviously Shaun the Sheep has not very much dialogue. So yeah, still haven't got around to seeing Shaun the Sheep yet, but Shaun the Sheep 2, why not? The first one did well, I think. Everyone loves the first one, so it makes sense to do a sequel. And next up is that Disney have switched release dates for The Incredibles 2 and Toy Story 4. And for me, this is great news. I'm a massive fan of the first Incredibles. It's one of my favourite films of all time, and I've been waiting so long for a sequel. Literally my whole life it feels like I've been waiting for a sequel. I even at one point back in school I wrote a letter to Brad Bird and Pixar saying please do. It wasn't really a plead for a sequel, it was more like some ideas I had for a sequel. I have no idea if that letter actually made it to Pixar or Brad Bird, probably not, but yeah, it feels like my whole life I've been waiting for a sequel to The Incredibles, waiting for years, over a decade now. Obviously we got the confirmation there was going to be a sequel, that a sequel was in the works. I've been following the news for years. Brad Bird's been putting some comments out over the years, and then it was announced for 2017, and then it got pushed to 2018 and then 2019, but we know now that it's been pulled forward to 2018, and Toy Story 4 has been pushed back to 2019, and for me it's great news, because yes, it's been 6 years since Toy Story 3, but it's been 12 years since the first Incredibles, and I'd much rather see an Incredibles 2 than a Toy Story 4. I'm not against a Toy Story 4, not by any means. I love the first 3 Toy Story films. They're some of my favourite, not just animated films, but some of my favourite films of all time. But I don't know if there's a strong need and desire and want for a Toy Story 4 where everybody wants an Incredibles 2, and we've only had one Incredibles movie. And a lot of the time I'm like, with animated films, you don't need to do a sequel, just leave it alone. But with the Incredibles, I really want a second one. I really want to see another Incredibles movie. Toy Story 4, I'm not that fussed. I'm not against it. It'll be cool to see where the story goes next now. But you know, I love that Toy Story trilogy, and I'd much rather see an Incredibles 2 over a Toy Story 4. But I'm still open to another Toy Story film, of course. And next up we have Scarlett Johansson is to star in a competing Zelda Fitzgerald movie. Obviously there was a Zelda Fitzgerald film that was announced with Jennifer Lawrence starring and Ron Howard directing, and that's apparently going to be following more of Zelda Fitzgerald's life and her career, becoming more of a jazz musician whilst her husband becomes more of a popular author. Whereas the Scarlett Johansson one's going to go more of a direction of, what if she came up with a lot of these ideas and her husband kind of stole these ideas from her? That's probably not what happened in real life, but for me, if I was to choose between the two of them, even though the Jennifer Lawrence one sounds really great, and Jennifer Lawrence is a great actress, and Ron Howard's a great filmmaker, I'm probably more interested in the Scarlett Johansson one, to be honest with you, because I love Scarlett Johansson, and I think she's great. Obviously, I think Jennifer Lawrence is great as well, but the Scarlett Johansson one sounds more interesting to me as well. They're going for a more interesting, different take and spin on it. It's probably not what happened, but it's an interesting take because apparently she did influence her husband, F. Scott Fitzgerald, I think his name is, if I remember correctly, and to go down the road of, what if, he took these ideas from her, probably not what happened, but that's quite an interesting take and spin on it. But the other one sounds great as well. And do we really need two movies of the same thing? Probably not, but they're both going down different directions, it looks like, anyway. And a lot of the time we get this in Hollywood where we get two of the same thing every year, it seems. We had two Hercules films, we had two Frankenstein films. Every year it seems we get two of the same thing. But who knows, maybe they'll both turn out great, maybe one will be better than the other, I don't know. Usually in this case kind of one turns out better than the other, but maybe they'll both be great. I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see on this. And the last piece of movie news I have is that J.J. Abrams has announced that God Particle will be the next film in the Cloverfield series. And a while back it was announced that God Particle will be the next film from J.J. Abrams' kind of mystery box production company, and I was really interested in it. This sounds really cool. And a lot of people joked at the time, what if this is the next secret Cloverfield sequel? I didn't think that was going to happen, but it's been announced, and I'm not actually against this because I don't think it's going to be directly connected to Cloverfield. I don't think it's going to be a direct sequel. And why I think this is because look at 10 Cloverfield Lane that came out earlier this year. I loved 10 Cloverfield Lane. I thought it was great, but it wasn't a direct sequel to Cloverfield. It was still set in that same kind of world, but it was more of its own thing, just vaguely connected to the Cloverfield first movie. I think that's what God Particle is going to be. It may be a direct sequel to Cloverfield, I don't know, but I have a feeling it's going to be more like 10 Cloverfield Lane, and that it's going to be more of its own separate, distinctive film that's going to stand on its own, but still at the same time be set in that same world and be kind of vaguely connected to the larger events of Cloverfield. Who knows? I have a feeling that's what they're going to do, if 10 Cloverfield Lane is anything to go by. But yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to this. I'm a big fan of sci-fi. I like Cloverfield. I love 10 Cloverfield Lane. And yeah, I'm really interested in checking this out as well when it comes out. New movie trailers. First up, we have the first trailer for Gore Verbinski's Return to Horror, A Cure for Wellness. And Gore Verbinski is another filmmaker that I'm very interested in. I like all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies that he did, the first three. Obviously, the first one's the best one. 2 and 3 aren't as good, but I still like 2 and 3. I still like that Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. The fourth one I kind of lost interest a bit. Not that bothered anymore, really. But I love his Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Obviously, he did the Lone Ranger reboot as well. And he's going to be doing A Cure for Wellness. And even though I'm not that big of a fan of horror, I love the look of this trailer. I wasn't expecting to like the look of it as much as I did. I thought, I'll give it a watch. And it's got a really cool, almost sci-fi horror thriller kind of vibe to it. So this looks like it's going to be really my kind of horror film. More of a sci-fi thriller kind of version of a horror movie. And the imagery, the visuals in this trailer, it looks stunning. It looks really great. And like I said, I think Gore Verbinski is a great filmmaker. We've got Dane DeHaan in there. I think he's a great actor. So yeah, this could be something really great, really quite special. So I'm looking forward to it. And next up we have the first trailer released for Man Down, starring Shia LaBeouf. And Shia LaBeouf is a guy who I was never really that bothered about. I grew up watching him on the Even Stevens show. And, I would never really cared for him that much in the Transformers films. But what really turned it around for me was seeing him in Fury. He really blew me away in Fury. And that's when I realised, wow, this guy's actually a really great actor. And he's a really great actor. And I think he's better in dramatic roles, as we saw from Fury, which was also another war movie. And this trailer looks really great. I think this is going to be the big breakout role for him, where people are like, wow, this is amazing. This is Shia LaBeouf's big breakout movie. And it looks like it could be really good. I wasn't that much of a fan of the music choice in the trailer. I don't know if it completely fit. It wasn't horrible, it worked, but but I like the concept. This war veteran coming back from after losing his war buddy, it seems, and then his family have gone missing. It's a post-apocalyptic America. We've got Gary Oldman in there, so it's what's not to like about this film. It looks like it could be really great. So yeah, that's the first trailer from Mangold. And finally, we have opening this week, which will end this week's show with, and we have The Light Between Oceans that opens here in the UK November 1st. Obviously, I think this has already been released in the US back in, September or something. But yeah, we get Light Between Oceans beginning of November, and I'm going to check this movie out because I really like the trailers. It sold me on the trailer. I'm not that big of a fan of romance movies typically, but this looks like it could be really good. I think I've heard mixed things. I don't think some people really liked it and some people thought it was just, okay, but Michael Fassbender, Alicia Vikander, Rachel Weisz, it's a great cast, so I think it'll be worth seeing on the performances alone. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, Light Between Oceans, and that's where I'm going to end this week's episode of the Friday Film Show. What do you guys think about any or all of the movie news topics that I discussed in this week's episode? What do you think about any of the movie news or trailers or the films that I saw this past week or talked about? Let me know what your guys' thoughts and opinions are. And as always, if you like this, then make sure to click subscribe to see more. But for now, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.